Good morning, welcome to Planet Althistory. Today you see me and myself a bit different, and that's because today I had actually like an idea without doing a script. It just came like a few minutes, well, even hours ago, I think. And basically, I was like imagining a world where the Neanderthals still survive. What if the Neanderthals still existed? Basically, you have a few implications because, first of all, the Neanderthals, before we actually go to the cool scenario, first of all, the Neanderthals, they were not so primitive as we usually think or make them out to be. It's because the Neanderthals are said to actually have buried their own ancestors or their family members or even their clan members. We also know that their brain capacity was bigger than anticipated. It is also speculated whether they could already talk or not. And I'm pretty sure that they were able to talk, at least with a few words. And also they had some kind of structure and probably also political organization, not as we imagine it nowadays with political parties, a government and all of that, but probably some kind of clan or some kind of structure. They were also pretty much artistic, so they had some idea of the abstract, and I mean with the burial of their ancestors. It's something that we pretty much can classify as abstract. So the Neanderthals, they could be on the same level or maybe a little bit below than the normal modern day human. Now I also don't want to like go too much into details about where the Neanderthals would spread and all of that, which country here and there. We will just talk about three important points which seem to be missing in many what ifs about the Neanderthals. However, those 3 points that I want to mention, I think they are essential to give a whole understanding or a whole perspective of such a scenario. Now, imagine the Neanderthals, they are now living in our world. The Neanderthals, they are different. Maybe we cannot really put our fingers on it. And perhaps 100, 200 years ago, we would not have any scientific evidence why they would be so different. We would see their faces a little bit different, their nose. The Neanderthals, they would only be white-skinned, so we can fairly be sure that there were no African Neanderthals, only maybe if they spread into Africa and colonized, but that's already another issue. They could perhaps also be Asians, because it is not sure whether the Denisovans are Neanderthals or if they are mixed or already another type of human being. So let's just go with the basic assumption that we have, the most mainstream one, where they actually lived here in Europe and came maybe even from Russia towards Europe. Now, as I said, we would perceive them as different, but not really putting our fingers on it, only after some time. And how would humanity react to it? What would humanity be? How would we define human rights? Would they only go for white men? Would they go for all men? Would they go for all the Homo sapiens sapiens? Or would they also include the Neanderthals? And while we are at it, why not go more further and even include, let's say, apes, there is a very slim, how should I say, a very slim, not possibility, but difference that we would have with the Neanderthals. They would be able to think in an abstract way. They could have a religion. They could organize themselves. They would be able to think almost as we are able to think. Maybe a few things would be different, and they could also talk. So what would make them different? Only their genetics and the way they look like. That's the only thing. We could even mix with them. I mean, modern day Europeans, and probably me included in them, we have like 2 to 4% of Neanderthal inside of us. So we would have this discussion in our world if the Neanderthals would still survive, whether they deserve special rights or if they would be included in our human rights. Would they actually be considered one of us, or would we say they are different? Now, I know it might be a very special point if I now would go to compare this situation with the US, where, for instance, black people and white people, they were both American. Not Native American, of course, but I'm speaking of US American citizen. Not citizen, but by culture, let's say. The whites, they had all the rights, and only freed black men, they had some of those rights, and then you had slaves. I will not go to this assumption that the Neanderthals would be slaves, only if they were mentally less developed maybe than the Homo sapiens sapiens, but I think they would be almost on par with Homo sapiens sapiens. And also the thing is that because there was not this big difference of skin color, I would even go so far and say that in the context of where maybe white men or white women or white people would go on an expansion like the Europeans, an alternative timeline, they would even prefer to accept a Neanderthal than, let's say, a black African, because the black African is, from a visual point of view, more different than the Neanderthal. Maybe due to some ideology that would define, let's say, oh, but the nose of the Neanderthal, or here and there, or how they walk, or whatever. If they had like a very massive difference than the Homo sapiens sapiens, then it could be different. But now let's see, the black Africans, they were at first treated badly, but then slowly and surely they claimed and they also fought for their rights, and nowadays they are of course treated in the same way, mostly. Sometimes there are still problems, unfortunately, but they are nonetheless in front of the constitution, of the laws, equal. So there is no difference of color scheme. And for the Neanderthal, I think that much later, if it's discovered, but wait, they have different genetics and all of that, there could be this debate whether they are included as humanity or they would have different rights. In the context of where they would be treated differently, it would be bad for them for a few reasons, and they would have to fight also for their own rights, and we would probably see worldwide or global movement of Neanderthals fighting for their own rights, for equality. The second thing, how would they be called? Or would we actually give to the Neanderthals a collective name, or actually just to the different tribes that would exist? Now, there are a few things, a few ideas that come to my mind. First of all, I think they could be called according to the geographical location where they are. So they could be like the Northmen, not Norse, but Northmen. They could be maybe the cold man, or the few men. Few men in the sense of that Homo sapiens sapiens, they tended to be in bigger groups, whereas Neanderthals, they were more isolated in smaller communities. So these are the three main ideas for which other different name they could have, in case they would be called in a collective way. And if they were actually called by tribe or whatever, well, the same would apply as for the Homo sapiens sapiens, where we have them divided by nation, by peoples, by religion, and so on and so forth. Third thing is, now how would they survive? This is now very much ASB probably, but I would say, well, luck. They needed luck. Why? Well, luck can play out in a different ways. I mean, let's say, look at, for instance, in Flores, the island of Indonesia. In there, you had the Homo florensis, which was maybe a different predecessor, or not predecessor, but a very different kind of Homo erectus, let's say, yeah, one that changed. And they survived because of luck. There was not so much contact, the environment was actually good for them, they could adapt, they became smaller, and thus they could still continue with their lives. Now for the Neanderthals, they could be maybe protected by geography, maybe they could go on islands like Ireland, Great Britain, Iceland, the Faroe Islands, maybe even Greenland, or they would have the help maybe of the woods or forests, and then after that there would be good plains where they could settle and live good and peaceful lives, which for the Homo sapiens sapiens, when they came just from Africa and would not be so much used to the cold climate and those forests, maybe they would still be afraid to go there and they would just ignore it for a lot of time. And the other thing that I think is important on how they could have survived is if there would be a change of mentality, basically. So let's say they would see that there are those other humans that come. And usually when we observe things, we come to a conclusion. And these conclusions, they have also a lot to do with abstract thinking. And now, because I'm pretty sure that they had some kind of religion, they had arts, and they were able to do abstract thinking, they could also make some logical conclusions. And now they would see Homo sapiens sapiens coming in a bigger group, and then all of a sudden Neanderthals start to disappear, or they have wars, or many other things. So the first thing that could happen is, these guys, they are bad. If they come like this, they are bad. The second thing would be, what can we do to avoid them? So some would maybe flee, and others, they could have another conclusion where they would say, we have to defend. And when they defend unsuccessfully, they would see, they come in bigger numbers, so we should also regroup and have bigger numbers. And if that would apply collectively to all the Neanderthals, if they would see that, I think they would have a good chance to survive based on the climate. I mean, they would go more to the north, they would be protected by geography, and when the change of mind would start to appear, they would have better chances to survive. Yeah, that's all for today, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and please leave me some kind of comment what you think about what if the Neanderthals survived. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed my video. Be sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment, support me also on Patreon, and join my forum, forum.planetalthistory.ga. Until next time on Planet Alt History.